Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Leah and most of my videos are focused on unsolved crimes and mysteries. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So my holiday in Denmark is over and I am back home in Turkey, and I can tell you it is boiling hot here. I've been trying my aircon, I tried a fan, I tried everything. I'm boiling. So I've been looking at Mica Miller's medical report and the drawings with the injuries on her body and her head. And there's a few things that I want to point out. And one of them is that I am 99% sure that I have proof that Mica is the one that pulled the trigger that day. It is possible someone forced her hand and made her pull the trigger. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the gun was in Mica's hand when it was fired, and I will explain later on. And I also noticed a huge bruise on Mica's hand, and there's actually two, and they have the shape of a U, both of them. And I was actually thinking, why does the bruise have a shape? It has a shape. It's not just a big round black and green bruise. There's a shape like a U. And I've been thinking about it for a while. What would make that kind of bruise that looks like a U? And I'm gonna get back to that as well, because I tested out something and it turned out that it was a complete match. But even though it's a match, I could still be wrong. So to start at the beginning, I am sitting here looking at the picture of the Lumber River where Mica was found, and her family put that huge flower decoration in the water. The fisherman said that the water was really high that day. And I'm thinking, if you're in water to your waist, if you get shot or you unalive yourself with a gun, it doesn't matter, because you're not gonna fall, if you know what I mean. You're not gonna fall in water. It's gonna be like slow motion. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you're gonna fall backwards, maybe you're gonna fall forward, but it's not like when you fall on the ground. It's water. It's impossible to move fast in water. And the bruises that Mica has on her head, her body, and her hands, it doesn't add up at all. Let me show you. So here you have the bruise on Mica's hand, and you can see her knuckles. The first one is the worst. They're really bruised. But you can see it shapes like a U. Can you see that? Like a U. And there's actually one more here. Going up here. Can you see that? A U here and a U here. And I actually think I found out what matches this U and how she got that bruise. I was looking at a lot of images to find out what kind of item would make a bruise that looks like a U. And then I came across this. To me, it looks like a print from a shoe or a boot, the heel of a shoe or a boot. Someone stepped on Mica's hand twice, and that brought me back to the closed skull fractures on her head. She had a closed skull fracture on the top of her head, and she had one in the back of her head. I think someone hit Mica in the head, and I think it's possible that she fell to the ground. And that reminded me of the 911 call, where in the end you can hear a man say, "Grab her arm." Is it possible that Mica was on the ground trying to reach for the gun to protect herself, and then someone stepped on her hand to prevent her from getting the gun? I don't know. What do you think? Then I tried to do some digging about corruption in Robinson County. I saw a comment online about the Mica Miller case that if anyone wanted to know what was really well known about corruption in Robinson County, they should watch a video on YouTube called Tarnished Badge. So I did. And it was really hardcore corruption in North Carolina in Robinson County. And during this video, I am not saying this is related at all because this happened 6 years ago. My point by showing you this is that if that corruption is still going on and the way they beat people, the way they punish people, it reminded me so much of the injury on Mica. Look at this guy. He's got a closed skull fracture on the top of his head. He's got 2 black eyes. Nothing over his eyes, only under, just like Mica. Is it possible that that blow to her head that left a closed skull fracture in the top of her head or in the back that made her get those black eyes just like this guy? Because as you can see in the top of the picture, he also has a closed skull fracture after he was brutalized by the police. And he was left with 2 black eyes, exactly like Mica. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It could be a coincidence. I'm not saying it's the same police officers that did this to Mica. Not at all. I'm looking at the way they beat this guy that left him with a closed skull fracture in the top of his head and with 2 black eyes. Exactly like Mica. Exactly like Mica. I don't know, I just wanted to show you. I'm gonna leave a link to the corruption video so you can go watch it. And I also have another video that's really disturbing that I want to show you.
Now, breaking news from CBS 17 News.
We do have breaking news to bring you right now. CBS 17 has learned 2 employees with the Robeson County Sheriff's Office now off the job in connection to the Hanya Aguilar murder case. The 13-year-old girl was kidnapped from outside her Lumberton home that happened back in early November. Her body was found nearly a month later. Retired Major Anthony Thompson and Detective Daryl McFadder have been fired after an internal investigation of the 2016 rape case. The suspect in that investigation, now the prime suspect in the rape and murder of Hanya Aguilar, we're told McClellan was not arrested for the 2016 case, even though there was a possible DNA match made by the state crime lab. A story we will follow throughout the day.
So is the corruption still going on in Robinson County, or is everything under control now? We don't know, but something is definitely not right in this case. So the next thing I want to share with you is that in the medical report it said that the entrance area to Mica's head was right above her right ear and the exit wound was just above her left ear. And it was really strange because the entrance wound was bigger than the exit wound. And normally it's the other way around. You will have a small entrance wound, but the exit wound is really big because the bullet will do like this inside the wound. So it doesn't make any sense at all. And then they measured the entrance and the exit wound on Mica's head, and both of them were 4.5 inches above her ears. How is that possible? Because I'm thinking, when you're about to unalive yourself, and we know that Mica was crying, can you imagine how terrifying it would be holding a gun, getting ready to unalive yourself? Her hand must have been shaking. So how is it possible that the bullet went through in a straight line? It didn't go up, it didn't go down, it was completely straight. I believe her hand was shaking like crazy. It's not possible that the bullet went in and out at the exact same measures, 4.5 inches. How is it possible? Or maybe when Mica was on the ground holding the hand and maybe some guy's foot on her hand, they bent down took her hand and forced it up to her head, and they hold the gun, if you know what I mean. She was holding the gun, but they put their hand over her hand and forced the gun into her head. That would make a lot more sense. How it was possible that it was 4.5 inch in both sides. I don't believe that Mica, she could have done that herself. The last thing I want to share with you is shocking, unbelievable, and I really wish I didn't have to show you this, because I was building a theory about a bruise on Mica's hand, and it's the one on her pointy finger. I was convinced that Mica, she was holding her head, trying to protect herself from the blows that gave her a closed skull fracture. I was convinced that someone hit her on the head, and maybe someone did. Maybe they did. My point is that the bruise she had on her hand, it looked like a long scratch, and in the middle there's like an open wound, like someone punched her or hit her with something. And while I was putting that theory together and I was looking at the gun, looking at her bruise, something just hit me. You're not gonna believe this, but I think I can prove 99% sure that Mica, she's the one who pulled the trigger. Look at this image. If you look at the left on the picture of the gun, there's a circle, and inside the circle you see a small triangle. It's a piece of metal formed as a triangle, and you see some kind of decoration on the gun, or maybe it's the serial number or the name. Maybe my glasses are not strong enough, but there's a pattern, a long pattern on the gun and that triangle metal piece. And if you imagine Mica holding that gun, that would be a match for her finger to lean against that metal piece and that long decoration. And when you get my point about this, look on the right side, look at her wound. She has a mark after that decoration thing on the gun. And the piece in the middle where she has an open wound, it looks like that metal piece that scratched her finger, which could actually also prove that someone was squeezing her hand. But I definitely think that Mica got that bruise on her finger from the gun, because it's a complete match. But I do believe that the scratch and the wound is very deep, so I think it's very possible that Mica held the gun and someone was squeezing her hand, so when the gun went off, it left a really big bruise on her finger. But if you look, in my opinion, it's a perfect match. Mica had the gun in her hand when it was fired. Because when you fire a gun, it's not like a toy gun or like, do you know what I mean? When you fire a gun, there's a lot of power behind the gun. When you shoot, the gun goes back a bit. So the power behind that blow, when the gun goes a bit back, that can leave a mark on your finger like this picture. Let me know what you think. But someone held her hand on the gun, forcing her hand up to her head, and then it fired. I don't know, but I am definitely convinced. I am 100% sure that Mica fired that gun. But I also believe that someone was squeezing her hand because of the bruise. It looks very deep, and I don't believe that if you just shoot a gun, you're not going to get a bruise that deep. So I think, yeah, Mica fired the gun, or she was holding the gun when it was fired, but someone was squeezing her hand, making the bruise even more visible. What do you think? So that's it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know in the comment section down below what you think. And until the next one, take care and stay safe. Bye!